when we do this program, which is called a self-leadership program, and it's a Ken Blanchard program. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the workshop typically, well, no, wait a minute. There we are. That's the screen I wanted. It runs, it's 3 2-hour sessions, right? And it can be done virtually, it can be done in person. You can do a self-guided one where you just sign up and you go online and do it yourself, and you don't have to deal with a facilitator like me or anyone else. And there's also a really cool youth version of it that has to be delivered in person. And I have purchased the materials and they're free for me to distribute. So there's 2 versions of the youth version. One is for young kids, so like elementary school age children, and the other would be for more high school, young adult aged kids. Obviously, we would need to facilitate it outdoors and work around COVID, and maybe we'll look at doing something like that in the spring, because it is. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not sure. Maria, can you see if there's someone else trying to get into the meeting for us and let them in? And if you're interested in the information that we share today, or you want more information, I put some stuff about these books that you can get on Amazon. They're not affiliate links. I'm not getting paid anything if you get the books. But it's in the chat box if you want the links to these books on Amazon. If you have Audible, it's actually free. The Kindle version is like $10, and I think the hardcover is 20 or something like that. But it sort of explores some of the concepts that we're going to talk about today. So if you wanted some more information and you're not wanting to do a whole workshop on it, that's a good way to get some additional information. And you can always call me too, reach out to me if you have questions. I might have some additional information that maybe, I can share with you as well. So let's see if I get on, oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, so before we really kind of get started, think about if you would all give some thought to this question, and it's the if only question. And, for purposes of this kind of condensed format, let's look at that third column. If only this learning experience could help me. So think about what we're talking about today and the information that we're sharing, and think about this question. And by the way, this is super fun. If you click on your little control bar and you click annotate up at the top, it should be at the top of your screen. It's a little black bar that comes down. You click annotate and then you click text. You can type into that screen. So if you want to try that, you are more than welcome to do that. There we go. Shannon's doing it. She's drawing something on the screen for us. There we are. And then you have to actually click the screen again for it to show up so we can see it, I believe. There, Ben's typing something as well. So, I think give this some thought as we go through the next couple of slides. And if you, we're going to come back to this because I'm going to ask you to maybe share some of what you're thinking with us as a group. So before we get going, I want to share sort of, do you guys have any, and you can unmute yourselves. There's not so many people in here that we can't talk. I'm not worried about us talking over each other. But, when we talk about situational leadership, has anybody heard of that? Do you guys know anything about it? Yeah.
We talk about it in Toastmasters sometimes.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So I'm just going to give you kind of a condensed Cliff Notes version of situational leadership and what that is, because that's kind of the foundation of when we talk about self-leadership as well. So in situational leadership, Ken Blanchard wrote a book years and years ago based on a bunch of research, and it really sort of breaks down development, right? And where are you at in terms of where you're learning and what your development is? And it puts you in one of four buckets. And it's based on the situation, right? So if you have someone who is, for example, a professional athlete, they're going to be in a much different developmental level on the specifics of, throwing a football if they are a professional quarterback, as opposed to maybe where I would fall. But I might fall higher on the HR competency level. So it isn't about how smart you are. It isn't about, anything other than just applying where you're at in terms of your development to a situation. So if we say that you're at a D1 development level, it means you really don't have any competence in the task or in the project. So for example, if you wanted me to play in the NFL, I would definitely be in a D1 situation. I don't have any competence, and I also have no commitment. I have absolutely no desire to play professional football, right? Now, when you move into D2, maybe you have some competence, but you're not committed. So, maybe you can do something, but you're not really experienced, not super comfortable with it, and you really don't have any desire to learn how to do it. So if that's where you're at, if that's where your head is at, then we're going to call that a D2. D3 is when you've got some competence and you sort of understand the basics, right? And you may or may not be committed based on a lot of different factors. D4 is someone that is very highly competent and very highly committed, right? So, if I take something like a marketing project and I want to give it to Ben, I can probably assume he's at D4 when it comes to that. But, being a quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, he may not be necessarily at that high level of competency and commitment. And then you have to match this, all right, with a leadership style. So if you're in these are supporting roles, right? So this is either you might be the leader or you might be talking about your leader. But in any case, S1 is where you're giving very detailed instructions. You're assuming someone understands nothing, knows nothing, and you have to sort of walk them through it, baby steps, hold their hands, lots of high touch direction. Not a lot of autonomy at all. You're not going to leave this person alone because they don't know what they're doing. S2 is you're in a situation where they maybe are starting to develop some competency, and you're going to continue to give them direction, but you're also going to maybe let go the reins a little bit. S3 is where you're assuming that they really understand a lot about what it is that they're doing, and you're going to sort of check on them and make sure that they're doing well, but you're not going to give them as much detailed direction. And when you get into the S4 supportive leadership style, this is where you just say to somebody, just do it, right? Just go do it. You know what you're doing. You don't need my instructions. You don't need my direction. And when we put these two things together, and you can imagine, that there could be a lot of, if you're in a D4 in your competency and your commitment, and someone's treating you like you're a D1, that can be super frustrating, right? So, you're a general contractor and you've been building homes for 30 years. And someone says to you, I want you to go build a home on that lot. Here's your budget, right? That's probably fine. But if they treat you with that S1 style where they want to start explaining to you that you need to go get a building permit before you start building, and here's the contact information for all of the agencies you're going to contact to get these permits, you're probably going to be patient with that for about 2 or 3 minutes before you stop that person and say, look, I know what I'm doing, And so a lot of times when we're talking about the people that we lead or the people that lead us, we have this mismatch where you need more support, but you're not getting it because they think you understand, or you maybe don't need anywhere near, the micromanaging stuff, right? And this, especially, I think that there's a lot of this mix up going on. 2020 was weird, right? COVID, and people are working from home, and we have a lot of people who are concerned because their employees aren't in the office anymore, and there's not as much contact between the people who are working together. So, I think a lot of opportunity for miscommunication and frustration can fester in that kind of an environment. And I just want to kind of go over that because it is the foundation of what we're going to talk about when we talk about getting into self-leadership. So before we dive into that piece of this, questions, comments, anybody? Does that seem right to you, Bonnie?
What was the question?
I just said, does that seem like what sort of the situational leadership that you're used to?
Well, what I'm talking about, see, whenever I haven't gone to Toastmasters in a couple of months, but there's a whole leadership program that if you want to become a leader speaker, they teach you how to become a leader. And I hear anybody that's done that program talk about these types of things.
Okay, so by the way, this situational leadership, that's a several days workshop. So I'm condensing it into, 2 slides and 5 minutes of explanation. But I think, I hope everybody kind of gets their head around the basics of it. That, we need to look at every situation is different, and where you're at in terms of your understanding of the tools that you need and the direction that you need and the support that you need might be different based on the task or based on the goal or based on the project. So, don't just assume high competence means high competence across the board or vice versa. So
I hear delegation. I hear delegate.
So, we have to be, careful when we're delegating, because if we delegate something to someone that's very competent, that we're used to being very high functioning, but we're delegating them something that they're kind of new, right? And they're not sure if they're doing it right. That can be a really kind of queasy feeling. Imagine that, like, anytime you've started a new job and you sort of have that shot of water feeling. So it's sort of akin to that, right? Like, we want to make sure that people that we've given them enough information and that they're comfortable without being overbearing. So
that's why Maria does my website. So
there you go. So, when we talk about this and when we talk about the concepts that we're going to sort of talk about, when we looked at that first slide and we talked about, sort of if only, right? What is the thing that you would like to sort of get out of the time that we spend together today? And have you guys had some time to think about that? And forgive me, you all are on a screen that's over here for me. So for me to see you, I have to kind of look away from the camera. Does anyone have anything they want to share, or anything that they hope to get out of this? And by the way, I may change up where I head based on the feedback that you guys may or may not be about to give me.
Do you see yourself, I need finishing on leadership. So, and I'm doing a lot of training right now with new agents in my office. Mm-hmm. I see myself flowing in between all of those with them. And sometimes I think it has to do with my own perception, which is messed up. Sometimes I perceive something incorrectly and I'm thinking like, well, they should have taken initiative, or they're being lazy, and I need to get this different flow of how I manage that, I guess, as leading them through this, my world.
So that's a great point. And so what I will say is each of us has a leadership style that we are most comfortable in. So some of us, and I don't know where you fall in this, Shannon, but you might be more comfortable being an S1 type leader where you kind of have to micromanage. Or you might be more comfortable saying, just do it, and you don't want to explain all the details, right? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. We each have something that we are most comfortable with. And so what we tend to do, the tendency is when we're in a leadership position, is we just apply that style that we are comfortable with. So for example, I will share with you, I'm comfortable with S4. Here's what I need done. Knock yourself out. Call me if you need me, right? That's what I want to do to everybody. But that isn't necessarily what people need from me. And so it's important that when you're interacting with people that you're leading, that you sort of assess and diagnose, where are they at? Are they in a D1 development stage? Do they need a lot of handholding and information and micromanaging from me at this moment? Versus maybe they're in D2. Maybe they have some idea about how to do it, but they just don't want to do it, right? So I need to approach that a little differently. I need to work on getting a buy-in before, because they're never going to get past D2 if we don't have buy-in. They're just going to get stuck there. And that's where so much learning gets stuck, is in D2, right? Because people, they don't want to go any further. They don't want to do this. They're not bought in. They don't see the value in it. Maybe they even outright disagree with it. And if we can't get them past that into the D3, D4 area, then we're never going to have a team that's working effectively together. So it's really important, and part of what when we teach situational leadership is learning how to diagnose the person you're leading, where they're at in their development, so that you can adjust your leadership style to what they need in order for them to move to the next level. Does that answer the question, and does it make sense? Okay. So, and that's, we kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there, but that's okay, because when we're talking about self-leadership, if we don't sort of understand the fundamentals of understanding where we're at developmentally and being able to turn that around and look at ourselves as opposed to look at people that we're leading, because that's kind of the leap that we're going to make. So does anyone have anything that they really specifically would like to get out of today, or do you just want me to keep rolling? Oh, Bonnie, you're muted.
I would love it if you could just give us the shortcuts. Because Chris, I'm like you. I'm just like, can't you just send your people to, or give a pill and then have them perform the way you need them to? That's what I would really like. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that program yet.
Yeah, I can let you borrow my magic wand, but only till Thursday. I'm going to need it back.
I'll take it.
Maria,
Employees are a thorn in my side. I'm not going to hire anybody for 3 years. I refuse. I'll work until 10 o'clock at night. I don't care. I'm not hiring anybody.
Okay. Well, we might have something for you then, Bonnie. We might have something for you. So,
well, because everything's legal in my industries. Everything is, you have to be licensed, you have to be registered, you have to pass CE classes, you have to do things on the side that I don't want you to do while you're on the job. And I don't want to pay you while you do this, because it's for your betterment, not me. You see what I mean? The license is your license. You need to spend your time doing your license, and I can't get anybody to do that. So I'm not.
Well, that might be a separate conversation. That might be a separate conversation, Bonnie.
It is.
But you have to sort of think out. But we are going to sort of touch on it a little bit. So when we talk about self-leadership, right? And when so to define it, there's two pieces to it. There's your mindset and there's your skill set. Right? And the mindset is just what's going on in the 6 inches between your ears. That's it. Skill set is what are you actually able to do? So like in your example, Bonnie, skill set might have to do with some of that licensing and, understanding the insurance ins and outs and some of the legalese and some of the compliance and regulation and some of that stuff. Those are skills, right? But that's not your mindset.
True.
So there is a difference, right? And there's 3 pieces to each piece. So you've got, in the mindset piece, you've got challenging assumed constraints, which is what we are going to focus on today, because I can't focus on 6 things. And so I picked one, and I think that challenging assumed constraints is probably the one that is going to get the most bang for our buck in the short time that we have to spend together today. But there's also activating our points of power and being proactive. That all happens in our head, right? And then there's the skill set. There's the goal setting. There's diagnosing where we are at. There's, you know, making sure that you're asking for the things that you need. So that's a piece of that. And let's talk about getting out in front of the things that maybe are holding us back. And there's a ton of stuff, right? That, I mean, 2020 was, it was rough. 2021 is not, hopefully it will get easier on the back end, but it doesn't seem to be starting out much easier, right? So, I mean, we do have some hope, obviously, some vaccines and some good news on the horizon, but, you know, will we ever go back to what we had before? You know, maybe not. Maybe, you know, more than likely, COVID's just going to be an annual thing that we all have to get vaccinated for. And we're going to have to make some adjustments to that. So, you know, being realistic about that, if that's what's holding you back and that's, you know, part of the thing that is in your head, you're thinking, well, I can't do this because of COVID or, you know, because I can't go network or whatever, you know, then maybe that would be something to think about. But I want you guys to kind of watch this video and tell me what you think.
This baby elephant is being trained to stay put. He's tethered to a stake by a heavy chain. Although the baby elephant pulls and tugs, he can't break away. Eventually, he stops trying. Even when he grows into
There's nothing showing.
Oh, okay, well, sorry, I thought you guys were seeing that. Okay, let's see.
I think there's something in front of it.
Yeah,
There.
can you guys see that?
No. Now we can.
You can?
Yes.
Could you hear it before?
Yes.
It was very low volume.
It was very low. Yes.
This baby elephant is being trained to stay put. He's tethered to a stake by a heavy chain. Although the baby elephant pulls and tugs, he can't break away. Eventually, he stops trying. Even when he grows into a 5-ton adult and could easily pull the entire stake out of the ground, he doesn't. Because he believes he cannot, he doesn't even try. That is his assumed constraint. An assumed constraint is a belief that limits new experiences. As adults, we all have assumed constraints. What beliefs do you have that are holding you back? Your assumed constraints not only prevent you from producing your best work, but they can also defeat you before you even try. Your assumptions hold you back from setting goals or believing you can achieve them. On the other hand, challenging your assumed constraints is liberating. Letting go of outdated and debilitating assumptions gives you a sense of autonomy that generates vitality and well-being. Challenge your assumed constraints and free yourself from the tethers of limiting beliefs that have kept you from realizing your possibilities.
Okay. So were you guys able to hear and see that? I hope. Okay.
Yes.
Did it make you a little bit sad when the baby elephant cried?
Yes.
So does that resonate for any of you? Does that make sense?
I've seen that before.
You've seen it before? Okay. So I like it because it sort of visually gives you, you know, a really good way to get your head around some of the things that we limit ourselves to in our own head. So if we talk about potential assumed constraints on just all of us being here today, right? Which nobody forced you to come today. You're all here of your own free will. So some of those assumed constraints that if you were, for example, put into a training workshop by your employer, we might have to overcome some things because you might be thinking right from the gate, wow, this is going to be stupid. This lady doesn't know what she's talking about. It's a waste of my time. I don't want to participate. I don't like to be put on the spot. So, you might have a lot of those things kind of rattling around in your head. And the big one here that I kind of want to point out is, well, if I take an hour out of my day and I focus on this workshop or whatever it is that, we're going to do here today, maybe I'll miss a really important business call, or, maybe I will get behind on my emails, or maybe I'll have my work will blow up while I'm not working. So what do you guys think in terms of assumed constraints that you guys might have? Can you think of any that you would say you might be experiencing?
Medical, maybe, just being tired, just being worn out, just being frustrated because you can't do anymore. Maybe just medical, or just being human. Can only do so much in one day, and you want to do more, but you can't.
Yeah, so, well, and what I will say to that is maybe, a piece of that is that there has to be a way to relieve some of that. There's just 24 hours in a day, right? And there's 7 days in a week. And I don't know if I write to my congressman. I don't, maybe we have a new president, maybe the Biden administration will go for 8 days in a week. I don't know, maybe, right? We can try. No, you don't think so? All right, well, there we go. So, we can't change that, right? There's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what are some things that you could potentially get some help with in terms of allowing other people to do? And I know for you, you're going to say, well, they need a license, and they need this, and they need that. And yes, they do. They need a lot of things. But if that's the thing that's holding you back, then, you have to come up with a solution that's going to liberate you from that particular constraint, rather than one that's going to leave you in this sort of perpetual cycle of, working. And trust me, I have done the work 7 days a week, 80, 85, 90 hours a week, literally no joke. And I think, for a lot of folks, and I think 2020 made it, and because for Bonnie, for you, you maybe being in the insurance business have had opportunity to work from home a lot. Most of what I did for the last 15 or so years of my career really was, I had a home office, and I did a lot of my work either from my home office, or if I was in the field, I was out visiting restaurants, right? Because I ran a restaurant franchise, and 30 locations. I mean, it was hard in a year to make sure I got to every single one of those locations at least once. It was challenging from a time perspective, and still be able to get all my other job done. And when you're working from home, you've also got this additional issue is you can never get away from work, because you're working from home. So home is work and work is home, right? Mm-hmm. So how do I, what do I do about that? How do I, in my head, separate, okay, I'm done working, now I'm going to go spend time with my spouse or my children, or, figure out a way to do that. And I know, Maria, you have a work from home situation that you've done for a long time. And I know some people on this call have. And so some of us maybe have figured this out a little bit sooner. Is that something that we want to kind of talk about, or do we want to move to something different? Well, I want to give you guys.
So. I actually have 3 locations. I've always had my home office, which you're viewing now. We have an office that we built at our home that can have up to 5 employees, and we have an office on Water Street. And right now, those 2 buildings are empty because of COVID. We just have everybody working from home. But I've been self-employed for the better part of 25 years, so it's normal for me. But my office is a professional environment. My home office is its own room. It's got its own equipment, its own computer, phone. Everything is set aside for that. And I think that helps a lot. And I don't find any problem closing the door and I'm not at work anymore. I've just adapted those. That's my skill set. To me, I'm either at work, but when I'm at work, I'm dressed, I'm ready. I'm not sitting here in my pajamas. I mean, mindset really is important for that, to really get to be able to master yourself that way when you're self-employed, is to take it seriously. And what's changed for me a lot this last year is travel time. Because I don't have travel time, I'm actually a whole lot more productive. And that's bringing challenges. So for example, I might have 6 Zoom calls in a day. And then at the end of the day, it's like, what did I get done? And which of these things am I following up on? And what have I already forgotten? Because by the time I hung up with that one, I'm in another one. So that's some of the challenges that I find about, this whole working from home thing, is you actually can get so much more bogged down with being busy and not be as productive.
So
when I work at home, I use a specific room just like Maria does. And then when I get up in the morning, I get dressed. I do a lot of Zoom calls because that's what we do too. You're either on Zoom or you're on the phone. But I work, I get up, I get dressed, I go into my back room, I go into my office, and then when I'm done working, I don't go near the place. Unless I think of something. It's good when you have to remember things, because then you can write it down really easy when you have the aha moments. But when you're done working, you don't go to that room anymore. That room is for work, and that room is for work only. And that's where you stay. That's how I stay focused.
Yeah. And so, I think for people like you, Bonnie, and Maria, and myself, I've always had the home office with the doors and the separate equipment and the separate desks for myself and my admin. And so 2020 wasn't maybe as challenging for me, but then on the other side of that coin, we have people who are accustomed to an office situation where they're used to leaving home and going to work and performing at work and then going home. And then we have their bosses, right, who now all of a sudden they're freaked out because they are having to let people work from home and they're not sure if they're actually working or not. So, lots of things, parts of that. And I, for this particular group, which would be the best one to talk about?
Believe it or not, in the insurance industry, we use keystrokes. We know whether you're working or not because we know how many keys you're touching. Everything's managed in the insurance industry. We can literally see whether they're anything. We have to manage keystrokes. We have to manage what's happening. Did you delete something? Did you cancel something? Did you add something? Was it submitted? Everything's keystrokes. So we actually know when you're working. So it's a keystroke thing.
Yeah, well, so maybe in that case, it's a situation of, that's something that you can measure, that's very tangible, but what about the person there's a person behind those keystrokes? What's going on in their head? Are they bought in? Are they committed? Are you getting, so one of the things that I think, is sort of a byproduct of ensuring that we have people who are, when we talk about self-leadership, one of the benefits to it is that because you can do your job and you can do your keystrokes. And I might be doing every single keystroke that I need to do, Bonnie. But am I doing one extra keystroke? Nope. Right? Am I applying what I call discretionary effort, right? So there's what I need to do in order to do my job. There's a skill set and a mindset that I need in order to do my job. So am I doing those things? Yes, check the box, right? I'm doing them. But am I doing anything extra? Am I going above and beyond? Am I coming up with a new idea, a way to generate a whole other revenue stream because 2020 got weird, right? And now we're in 2021 and we're trying to adapt. And if I have all these great ideas, but I'm not going to bother sharing them because my keystrokes are measured and they're all good, I'm making them, right? how do we get people's heads into a place where they're applying that discretionary effort and you're actually getting more than just keystrokes out of them? Does that make sense?
I personally think it's just attitude. It's an attitude that you have to learn. Attitude is not given. Attitude is not internal. It's something that you have to live. It's something that you want. If you want to make $100,000, you've got to step back and you've got to have a plan. How do I make $100,000? How many policies do I have to sell to make $100,000? I sit back and I think about that and I figure out how to do that. Then you put a marketing system together. It's a system. You have to create it's a system.
Yeah, so, but Bonnie, here's, I'm going to challenge you on that, because I will, and if anybody disagrees with the statement I'm about to make, please feel free to disagree with me. Every American who makes less than $100,000 a year would like to make at least $100,000 a year. Does anyone think that's not true?
You've got to plan. You've got to figure out how to do it. You just can't have it handed to you.
So, but that's a skill set, Bonnie. That's not, that what I'm saying is.
Right, it's a plan. It's an attitude that you have to build upon.
Yeah.
So I didn't work this hard when I was 19. I didn't work this hard when I was 25.
So,
I'm 58 now, so I've learned
so the question,
attitude, I've learned skill sets, I've learned schedules.
yeah. So the question is, how do we get people who want to do, because we have to assume most people want to come to work and do a good job. But there's a big difference between that and getting them to the point where they're able to, and that's sort of the whole idea behind self-leadership, is training them to retrain the way that they think, so that the mindset is that they are able to overcome both the assumed constraints and the challenges. And also
it's education. It's education. It's literally educating. You're not learning this in high school. You don't learn this in high school.
So we have.
Can I chime in for a second? So
Sure.
This interests me because leadership, I'm a leader of 10 people, and motivating them, and my attitude is get up, show up, dress up, show up, and go, go, go. But this last year with COVID, you talked about COVID and working from home, and everyone's comfort level with that. I have failed as the leader of my little shop here. The numbers from production for myself went up 67% personally, but for all 10 people in my office, somehow I have lost that motivation of our in-house meetings, in-person meetings. And I'm still trying to adjust from it and keep them going somehow with Zooms and this and that. But this is a good eye opener for me. So thank you. But that motivating other people, oh my, this has been a major challenge for me for the whole COVID thing.
Such a good share. I think that's such a good share, Shannon, because I think that, if you're managing yourself or you're managing a team, that there's lessons that can be learned that cover both groups. And I think, and if I'm just going too fast, Chris, let me know, but it seems to me that the situational leadership that you were describing and the challenging the assumed beliefs and the constraints, a lot of that, I look back to the Pygmalion story, which is the other side of it. It's kind of what you get, what you expect. And you both from yourself and from your team. And one of my challenges and why I need that magic wand is I just want to wave the wand and have everybody be just like me. If everybody was just like me, we would be amazing, right? Just like you, Shannon. Oh, we'd all be up 67%.
But no. I love you, but no.
But those are the frustrations of people with my particular style. Is I want the best for everybody, but I'm pretty convinced that everybody would be better off if they were just like me. And I know that that's not realistic and it's not true either. So I have to force myself to look at them and see the good and look for the shiny parts to polish of their personalities and their skills, whether I want to or not. I don't want to. I want to just show up, tell them what to do, and get out of here and have it all done. But some of them are there and some of them aren't. And then the second thing I just want to share, Shannon, this may help you. I don't know how large your team is, but we use Skype. It's free. And we are on Skype all day long. And every morning we have a team meeting on Skype. It doesn't require setting up Zoom calls or anything like that. You just create a chat, call everybody, and every single morning we hear from each department head, and then we offer, any suggestions. We go over the calendar, and it's just a real simple touch base. And then I've expected my department heads to do the same with their team. So we have our group meeting, 5 minutes, and then they have their group meetings, and then we instant message all day long. So if I've got a question for one, I just send them an instant message, they get right back to me. But the expectation is the whole day you're on Skype and I need to be able to reach you. And if I'm going to press a button for you, Bonnie, and they better answer the phone and they better look like they weren't just taking a nap. So we've used that particular technology, and we have a great team. I mean, and the other piece is they're just so darn busy. If they weren't doing their work, I'd know it because they couldn't keep up. But Skype has really been a help for us from the instant messaging, and then also a daily group call. It's just how we do things, and it seems to have helped. My challenge is that Pygmalion part, that thinking that my people can do better and making that happen in my own mind. So I just wanted to say
Maria, I relate. Really, you and I have so much in common, and we're both D's, and we're both we're in.
Yeah, all three of us. I don't know Shannon very well, and I don't know Lauren, and I don't see anybody else that's on here, but Maria and I are very, very much, because I want it now and I want things done now or yesterday, and just get it done and be done with it and do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again.
But what I will say is, and Shannon, thank you so much for what you shared earlier, because the first piece to really getting to the point where you're going to be able to impact the development of your team is opening your mind and saying, wait a minute, maybe I need to do something different to impact the development of my team. So you've made that first leap, right, into sort of understanding that you need to kind of diagnose where people are at in order to give them the kind of support they need to get them to where you want them to be. So having an open mind and being able to sit back and take a deep breath and really say, wait a minute, let me think about this a little bit differently. Let me get someone else's viewpoint. Let me try and think about it from their perspective. One of my favorite screensavers I have on my desktop is a picture of a sunrise, but it was taken on Mars from one of the rovers. And to look at that sunrise on Mars, you're looking at the same sun that you look at from Earth, but it does not look anything like the same sun. And it's just a really great reminder that that perspective can really change from person to person, and understanding that and being able to diagnose that about your team is really a great way to get them past some of maybe their assumed constraints. And it's also a way for you to bring your head to a different place so that you're able to provide them the support that they need. And unfortunately, Maria, I know you're going to say, well, shucks, I wish she had a different answer for this, but yeah, sometimes have to be patient, and you have to really take the time to say, well, they're not doing it as quickly as I would do it or as quickly as I would like it done. But in order to get them past, they're stuck at D2, right? How do I get them to D3, or how do I get them from D3 to D4? And the answer really is in adjusting the way you support them to meet their needs, and adjusting your leadership style from what you're comfortable doing to what's needed. And when we talk about self-leadership, then you have to be introspective enough, and you really have to be able to look at yourself in a way that's really objective and maybe sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest. And you have to be willing to say, this is what I'm not good at. This is what I need help with. This is where I need support, and then ask for it. Because if you're not able to diagnose yourself, then you're never going to be able to ask for the support that you need and ask for, you know, the things that you need in order to be successful. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think also to challenge myself to not assume the worst, or assume that somebody's just at a place and they're not going to get any better, so therefore I don't have to try anymore. Because that's a big part too, is you know, if you've got this feeling that, oh, this employee is just never going to get there, then you give up and you don't take the onus back on yourself. I hate that. I want the magic wand now, please.
I've got a
Only till Thursday.
great analogy, if I could say this. When I went to a training seminar, I don't remember exactly where it was, and what they did is they put up on the screen a big tree. You know, this is a real wide tree, has lots of limbs, it has, you know, it's big and round. And what they talked about was time management with this tree. You've got all these limbs, and you've got all these branches, and you've got all these leaves, and you've got the big trunk. And what they talked about was time management. And they used the trunk as the most important. So you've got to sit down and you got to think about, what am I going to do today? So what is my most important? What is my trunk to do today? Because there's ways in which you can figure out how to make more money if you learn how to manage your day. So because one of the major problems that they found is everybody's doing these little things. You know, they're talking to customers. A customer calls and I've got to take care of them right now. You don't have to answer. See, in the beginning, when I started my agency, I answered every phone call because my third customer was my first claim. She got stuck on the highway and she called me 3 times while I was sitting in front of a customer. How dare her? You know, but I'm trying to say that I needed to answer that phone call. So sometimes you have to do things that are not normal. But my point is that if you can try to structure 60% of your day at least, or 80% of your day using trunk, then branches, then leaves.
So,
you know, things like that, then you can learn to organize your day so that you can be more productive with it. And structure what you have to do that day, and make sure you at least get your trunk done and get your big branches. And then you may not get to the little branches or the leaves, but you can start to figure out how to organize your day better so you can be more productive and more cost worthy for your boss.
Bonnie, that's a really great analogy, and it definitely falls into the skill set piece of kind of what we're talking about here when we talk about self-leadership, is that discipline and focusing on time management. And, you know, for some of us that comes more easily, and for others, you know, we can get lost. We can start meandering through the day and go down a rabbit hole of, you know, I don't know, something on YouTube or too many Zoom meetings, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's definitely a focus on the skill set piece of this. And
it's a leadership. I mean, you're a leader of your day.
Mm-hmm.
You need to first be a leader of your day. One day you'll be a leader of an organization, but today you're a leader of your day.
So, and that's a great skill set when we look at our mindset, and when we look at how can I really look inside myself and figure out what is it that I'm doing with my team, or what is it that I'm doing with myself that might be constraining my ability to reach my goals, or, you know, even set my goals, right? Because in order to get to that point where you're setting goals that are actually going to be realistic and that are going to matter and that are going to get you to the objective that you want to do, you have to make sure you're setting good goals as well, right? So, you know, it really, I mean, if you guys take nothing else away from the information that we've covered today, it really is about being able to self-diagnose when you maybe need to turn up the the detail and when you might maybe need to dial back a little bit for your team. When do they need support versus direction? And also being able to look at yourself and say, you know, I need help with this. This is not something I'm good at. It's not my wheelhouse. And so where do I turn to get that support that I need? Where do I lean when I need, you know, if I needed something that had to do with, I'm terrible at social media. I'm absolutely awful. I pretty much don't even use my social media accounts. If that was something that was important to me, I would just hire Maria to help me, or I would hire Ben, right, to help me out, right? Because those are things that I know those aren't in my wheelhouse, and I am a solid D2, no interest in learning it. I don't have the time for it, and sort of just understanding that that's where I'm at, and then I need to, you know, really look at myself, and in terms of, you know, am I being too hard on someone versus am I not being hard enough? And where's just right? And there is no 100% right answer for every situation. And there's no 100% right answer that works for you personally in terms of self-leadership in every situation. It's all different. It's all based on what the activity is, what the goal is, what the project is, and sort of being able to turn your eye inward and gauge, what is it that I need? What am I assuming? And how can I get that help? And I will share with you quickly, when I used to run restaurants, I can remember, and this would happen so often. It was just such a great metaphor for the way that people think sometimes. I would go into a restaurant and I would say to the general manager, you know, you've got an employee here, your dishwasher, he's running back and forth like a chicken with his head cut off because you don't have enough forks in your restaurant. Why don't you have enough forks? Why didn't you order them? And the manager would look at me, you know, eyes as big around as they could get. And generally what would come out of their mouth is, well, they told me I couldn't spend money, or they told me I couldn't order them. Well, who's they? Because if we look at your budget, you actually have a budget to spend on things like smallwares. You can buy forks and knives and plates, right? Why are you assuming that you would get in trouble for spending that money when, in all fairness, right now you're in trouble for not spending the money, right? So it's really about, and it would just, it seems like 25 out of 30 restaurants that I'd go into, I would have a similar question. And I would get a similar answer that, well, they told me I couldn't, or I'm not supposed to, or am I allowed to do that? Well, of course you are. That's your job. You're supposed to do that. That's what we're paying you to do, is to make sure there's enough forks. Like, why do we need a general manager in this building if we're going to run out of forks? This is nuts, right? And it's something that's so simple, but so often people convince themselves that they shouldn't or couldn't, or that it's not reasonable to do something, that if they really look inside, they can sort of figure out that, hey, you know, this is all in my head. This is you know, I'm being boxed in by my own thoughts. I'm walling myself in. And by extension, the people that I lead and the people that lead me, right? Because sometimes it works the other way in reverse. If you have a boss, you know, a lot of us are small business owners, but you know, this applies to clients as well. So it's sort of a universal thing that, you know, really think about where a person's at and try and meet them there, as opposed to trying to impose the way you're comfortable leading them. But then also, you got to use that on yourself, and you have to be able to turn inward and say, this is where I need help. This is where it hurts. This is where I'm confused. This is what's stopping me. This is what's holding me back. And figuring out a way to reach out to the right person who's going to be able to give you the support and the help that you need in order to get past where you're stuck. Does that make sense?
Well, Chris, I have a question. So basically, the way I'm understanding it, the chain represents fear. So if we're afraid of spending money because in the past someone's yelled at people in the company that spend too much money, or if we're afraid of having a seminar because we have a seminar, I've done this and only 2 people are in the audience. Now the next time I'm going to be very careful before I plan one. And maybe that will make me wait too long because I just am afraid of having another one with 2 people or no one in the audience.
That's exactly it. And I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Don't be afraid. I'll show up.
Thank you.
So now you got 3. But yeah, you know, it is, and that's a really great way of expressing it, because yeah, if you got burned once, you know, you don't want to keep touching the hot stove, but at some point, right, you have to be able to reach out and figure out, you know, is it a different way of marketing it? Is it a different way of, I don't know, social media? I don't know. You know, figuring out where is that sore spot, and figuring out a way to get past it. Because if you don't, then either you're going to get stuck doing seminars with 2 people that show up, or just not doing them at all, or not figuring out what's the alternative. What else could I be doing, right? Because maybe it isn't doing seminars at all, but maybe it's doing them differently, or changing the time, or, you know, figuring something else out. But it's really, you know, don't be a victim of the circumstance and the situation. You know, for me personally, if my, like, this is weird, but I'll share it. If my closet where I keep my clothes and my shoes and stuff gets messy, I feel like I'm out of control. Like I can't control my life, and it stops me from doing anything at work. You know, it sort of constipates me in a way. So I have to go and I have to clean it and then make it organized, and then I feel like I'm in control. And everything else can be really messy, and I'm fine with that. But it's that one little piece that I got to have, right? So being able to understand that about yourself and look inward and say, okay, this is what I need. This is where I need to get some help. Did that answer your question, or yeah? So, but that was a really great a great analogy, or maybe a great metaphor. But yeah, I would say for sure, you know, let's figure out ways that we can look inward and make the changes that we need to make. And that's tough. It's hard, you know, to say, well, you know, I need to be, I need to micromanage less, or I need to pay more attention to the details, right? Depending on where you come from, where you are on the spectrum, what you're comfortable with. It's tough. Any other questions or comments, or you guys want to just chat for a little bit? I can keep the meeting open if you guys want to. So I put my email address into the chat box, and I also put a couple of, I put that one document discussing links to the books if you want that. I can put it in again if you guys missed it at the beginning, or you can email me and I can send you the links to the books. Or, you know, if you're interested about getting some more information about the training, you know, maybe doing the actual thing online yourself, you can do it without a facilitator, and it's just sort of self-directed, and you do the whole thing self-guided online. You know, if that's an option that you want to explore, I can give you some information about that as well.
I'd love to see the self-guided stuff as a starting point.
Yeah, I can definitely send you some information. And, you know, if you have questions about it, because again, I'm trying to condense this huge amount of information into, you know, just a very short little hour. So if there's something that you want some more information or clarity or materials on, I can certainly send you a piece of it. And I'll shoot you an email and give you the information.
Well, Chris, I want to just tell you, I got so much out of this. This was really valuable and helpful, and the insights that everybody shared just contributed to the experience. So thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate the opportunity to see you guys all, and I wish we could see each other in person sooner, but I know eventually, 2021, some point we will.
Well, I also wanted to share with the group how wonderful Chris is to work with. She's helped our team. It's just been fantastic to have somebody who uses such great tools, has so much knowledge and real world experience and application to bring. And she was able to help us, immensely by providing some of the great tools for us. So kudos, Chris. I can't recommend your company highly enough. And again, I'm just so thankful that you're part of WSDBA and we're willing to take your valuable time today to present this. It was really important.
You are too kind, Maria, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming and spending part of your day with us.
Yeah, it was
We very much.
great information. I just want to remind everybody, thank you so much, Chris. Our next workshop on water, this is actually a bonus month. We have another one at the end of the month on February 24th with Julie Brander from SCORE, How to Network in a Virtual World. And then we're going to do a fun breakout room where we're going to actually network and actually use what we learned in the class with Julie. So that should be fun on February 24th, 12 noon.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And everybody, please, even if you think you're a member already, go to WSDBA.org and re-sign up. And yes, I'm talking to you, Stu. We're creating
I'm going to start sending you reminders.
I'll chase them down. I know where to find them now.
It goes for you too, Mark. Even if you were a previous member, you need to go to the website and sign up. We're creating a great, good new master list. So please take a few minutes. It's simple to do.
Well, and now that I'll have a new business starting March 1st, yes, I have to.
You can sign up today as you speak.
Maria, I promise I will be there. I do not want you chasing me down.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Well, thank you, everybody.
I love you too.
Nice to see everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the info, Chris. Great stuff as always.
Thank
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Bud.
you, Maria. Thanks, Lauren.